This is continuing coverage. The Black Swan murder trial of Ashley Benefield from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. Now back to the courtroom.
In the usual course of events, Deputy Burrell, when you enter information into an incident report, is it fresh in your mind?
Say that again, sorry?
In the usual course of events, when you fill out an incident report, is the information fresh in?
Usually, yes.
And while it's fresh in your mind, you place it into the report as to such things as date and the time and the local complaint nature of the call.
Correct.
All right. Told us that sometimes mistakes are made in these reports and they're attributed to different deputies.
Correct.
I think you also told us that that's the exception rather than the rule.
Correct.
Do you have any reason to believe that this particular report is that exception or not? Do you have any information that leads you?
Again, I don't recall that particular call that you're speaking of with that paper, but it's most likely was me.
Okay. Now, may I proceed, Your Honor?
It's the same objection.
Overruled at this point.
Thank you. Would you tell us, Deputy Burrell, who the complaint was for that call?
Ashley Benefield.
Would you tell us what the date of the complaint was?
May 7th, 2018.
And will you tell us what the nature of the call was?
According to the narrative here,
Don't read the narrative, just tell us the nature of the call.
I have to read through the narrative to be able to tell you because I don't recall this.
You got to take that up with Judge White.
What's been allowed is not detailed, just a
Correct, yeah.
very general description.
Yes, sir. I understand, yeah.
Okay, and the nature of the call?
Person in their driveway suspected to be Douglas Benefield.
And that was at what address?
That would be 11/3/31.
And what was the time of the call?
21:54 hours, so that would be 9:54 p.m.
Nighttime?
Yes, sir.
All right, Your Honor, I have another report, but we have an objection. So, Deputy Burrell, I have one other question for you about one of your calls. Apparently, you cover a lot of ground.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you if you recall, and now this is going back to the 19th, specific December 8th, 2019, you obviously worked the night shift at 2055. A suspicious person call in progress at (11332) White Rock Terrace in Bradenton. Do you recall that?
No, sir.
Thanks very much, Deputy.
Redirect.
I don't have anything, Judge. Thank you.
All right, can this witness be released?
Yes.
Defense?
Yes, he can be.
Keep him, all right. Sir, you're released from your subpoena.
Wait, sir, I'm supposed to recall.
We need to still be.
Sir, you are not released from your subpoena. The rule of sequestration has been invoked, so you're not to discuss your testimony, the questions asked, or the testimony given here in the courtroom with anyone, including the attorneys, or any other witness, or anyone else.
Yes, sir.
And you're not to view or watch or talk with any witnesses about their testimony.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, State.
Thank you. The state would call John Jones. I think the deputy already went to get him.
Sure.
And Judge, I will need the system for this one. Please.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. My name is Judge White. I'm presiding over the case. Just make yourself comfortable in that chair. Get about 12 to 15 inches from the microphone and adjust up, down, left, right, however you need it. If you just speak in a loud, clear voice, we'll be able to hear everything. If we hear you breathing, you know you're too close.
Yes, sir.
May I inquire?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
John Jones, Jones.
And how are you employed?
I'm a detective with Manatee County Sheriff's Office
And how long have you been so employed?
since September of 2014.
And what are your current duties at the Sheriff's Office?
I am currently.
And does that mean you investigate property crimes?
Yes,
Okay. And back in September of 2020, were you in that same unit or a different unit?
a different unit.
And what was that unit?
The Violent Crimes Task Force.
And what are your primary duties as a member of the Violent Crimes Task Force?
Investigate violent or aggravated circumstance, respond to same.
And when you, what kind of education did you obtain to become a law enforcement officer?
I went through the basic law enforcement academy at Valencia and Orlando.
And since then, have you continued to take classes through the Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And do you take some on providing first responder aid as a first responder?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to draw your attention to September 27th, 2020. As a member of VCTF at the time, did you work a specific shift?
I work 3 p.m. to 3 a.m.
And was that is that the shift you were working at that time?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I got distracted. And did you does VCTF have a zone, or are they in the whole county?
They're a countywide task force.
And during your shift on the 27th of September 2020, did you respond to a call on White Rock Terrace?
Yes, I did.
And is that here in Manatee County?
It is.
And how did you find out about this call?
It was dispatched over the radio.
And what was the nature of the call?
Shooting with injuries, I do believe.
And does the nature of the call affect how you respond?
It does.
And how did you respond to this call?
Lights and sirens activated.
And is that because of the fact that there was a shooting?
Yes.
Do you remember how long it took you to get over to White Rock Terrace?
Not very long.
Where you were close in the area?
I was at State Road 64 in Lakewood Ranch Boulevard when it came out.
And what kind of area is this where this home is?
Residential.
Like a subdivision?
Subdivision, yes.
And when you arrived, were other law enforcement officers already on scene?
Yes.
Several or just a few?
A few.
And what did you do when you first arrived?
I was asked to ensure nobody come out of the back of a residence. And nobody came out of the back of the residence.
Okay. And after that, what did you do?
I went to the front of the residence to clear the house to ensure there was no person inside the house.
And was that the same house, or was the back of the residence the neighboring house?
Back of the residence was the neighboring house.
Okay. So you started at the back of the house next door to the one where you eventually entered?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you went over to the neighboring house. Did you notice anything about the outside?
Can't recall.
That's fine. And do you recall how you entered that house?
Yes, through the front door of
Thank
the
you.
residence.
And what was the purpose for going in there?
To ensure that there was no person inside that was armed and to render aid to anybody inside.
And did you find anyone inside the home?
I did.
And who was it? Or was it a man or a woman?
It was a man.
And where was he?
He was in a bed.
And was he standing up or?
No, he was lying down.
And can you kind of describe what you observed in that bedroom?
Yes, I observed the male laying down on the floor, sort of in the middle of the floor. He had a gunshot wound to his right about here, and then another one down by his leg. There was blood under his right leg.
And was this room set up with a bed and a dresser and all those things, or did it look different?
It looked like it was empty.
And based on that room and the other rooms, did it appear someone was either moving in or out of that home?
Yes, it did.
And you've told us you observed what you believe to be gunshot wounds. Did you make any other observations of him?
Yes, he was wearing gray shorts and a gray shirt. or a dark colored shirt.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Detective, I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as states 2 and 3. Will you take a look and tell me if you recognize those items?
Yes.
I'm just going to leave here for 1 second. Other than, how do you recognize them?
This is the shirt that the defendant or a victim was wearing.
And that's states 2, and as to states 3?
These are the shorts the victim was wearing.
And other than having been repackaged for trial, do they appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition when you saw them?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to enter and publish states 2 and 3.
No objection.
Received?
And, Detective, I'm just gonna hold this up. This is states 2. This is the shirt the victim you found was wearing.
Yes.
Okay. And it appears to have been cut. Do you know how that happened?
Yes, I cut it
And what was the purpose of cutting it?
to check for injuries.
And then this is states 3. These are the shorts that he was wearing?
Yes.
Okay. And they're also cut. Did you do that?
I did not.
Do you know how that would have occurred?
Likely by emergency medical services.
Is that normal for EMS staff to remove clothing like you did the shirt?
Yes.
As to these shorts in states 3, can you look at them and tell me what the size is?
Men's 30.
Thank you. And as to the shirt in states 2, can you look at that and tell me what the size is?
My glasses. Hold on a minute. Size small.
Thank you, sir. Other than cutting his shirt, well, let me ask you this first. Did you touch him?
I did.
And how did he feel?
He was cool to the touch.
And did you attempt to provide medical aid?
I did.
And how so?
I began packing wounds to initiate CPR before EMS arrived on scene.
And what does that mean, packing wounds?
Putting gauze over wounds to keep whatever's inside when you're doing compressions.
And did you eventually start CPR?
No.
And why not?
EMS arrived on scene.
And were they very far behind you when you arrived?
Not very far, but I can't remember exactly how long.
And while you were attempting to provide medical aid, was somebody else taking some photos of the scene as you found it?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you states 18, 19, and 20. Will you take a look and tell me if you recognize those photos?
18 is me checking for the pulse on the victim.
Just take a look at them real quick and tell me if you recognize them first.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
and are those photos that we just discussed that were taken while you attempted to do aid?
Yes.
And do they appear to fairly and accurately depict the scene as you recall it from September 27th, 2020?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would ask to enter states 18, 19, and 20 and publish the same.
May I just see them, Your Honor?
Of course.
No objection.
States 18, 19, and 20 will be received.
Detective,
So
I'm
when
going
you
to...
say publish, you mean up here?
Yes, sir.
All right, get the lights, please.
Detective, I'm going to show you right, let me give you this in case you need it. It's a pointer. It has like a red button in case you need it with a dot. I'm going to show you states 18 and ask you to describe what is depicted in 18.
That is me checking the victim for a pulse after the AED pads have been placed.
And that's you on the right, that's your head?
Yes.
And on the left, is that another deputy?
Yes, it is.
And you said after placing the AED, what is that?
It's a defibrillator.
And is that the stickers we see on his body?
Those pads there.
Thank you. And I'm going to show you states 19.
States 19.
Yes. Is this the victim as you found him?
Yes, it is.
And those are the shorts we just saw?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then states 20.
Yes.
Is this the position you found, when you found him, is this the same position he was in?
Yes.
Okay. And in the right, top right of this picture, there appears to be something tan. Do you know what that is?
I hear that it's a mattress stood up against it.
Thank you. Thank you, Detective. Did you make any other observations of evidence in that bedroom? Okay. And what was that?
There were 4 spent shell casings and 1 projectile in the room.
And a projectile, is that what I might call a bullet?
Yes.
Okay. And did you do anything else in the house after EMS took over aid?
No, we exited the residence and it was secured pending a search warrant.
And did you conduct any other investigation in this case?
No, I did not.
Judge, can I have just a moment?
Of course.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Detective.
Yes, ma'am.
Cross?
Couple of brief questions. Deputy Jones, afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
You were not, or you were, the first deputy that made contact with Mr. Benefield.
I was one of the first. I couldn't tell you I was the first, but I was one of the first in the house, yes.
Were any other deputies in contact with Mr. Benefield prior to yourself?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. Had Mr. Benefield been moved at any time?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you ever witness anyone moving him?
Yes.
Other deputies
EMS.
and the EMS? EMS?
Just EMS.
Just EMS?
Yes, sir.
No other deputies?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And EMS, correct me if I'm wrong, did they drag him out of the room?
I believe so, yes.
That's all. Thank you.
Redirect?
I don't have anything, Judge.
Can this witness be released? State?
Yes.
Defense?
Yes.
Sir, you're released from your subpoena. You're free to go.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Get back on. All right, State?
I should have asked this already, but can we publish those? We don't need the witness, just publish them through the jury while we're calling the next witness.
What, 18, 19, and 20?
Sure, 2 and 3.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have asked them.
As I said, members of the jury, just take each of these items, take a look at the first one, pass it on. These will go back with you in the jury room during your deliberations. You'll have as long as you want to analyze and look at them. Announce your next witness, please.
This state would be Ackerman.
You solemnly swear that the testimony about this will be the truth,
the whole thing if necessary.
Cool, sir.
Sir.
As the deputy said, just make yourself comfortable in that chair. Get about 12 to 15 inches from that microphone. It does adjust up, down, left, right as you need it. Probably just, yeah, there you go. And just talk in a loud, clear voice right into the microphone.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Tyler James Ackerman, Ackerman.
And by whom are you employed?
I work for the Manatee County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you worked for the Sheriff's Office?
Just about 9.5 years.
And what are your current duties with the Sheriff's Office?
Currently, I'm a violent crimes task force detective.
And were those the same duties you had in September of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are your daily activities as a violent crimes task force detective?
What area?
What do you do at your...
Oh, okay. So we'll go out to assist patrol with calls for service pertaining to shootings, stabbings, robberies, stuff of that nature, and then we'll also assist other detectives with investigations.
Thank you. And what kind of training did you obtain to become a law enforcement officer?
Prior to becoming a law enforcement officer, I went to police academy, which is a full term for 6 months, and then after that, there's additional training that we receive at the agency to include in-service training, about a 3-month program that'll get us ready for on the road to be able to pass to become a solo deputy.
And does that training in the academy and going forward involve firearms?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do before you were a law enforcement officer?
Prior to law enforcement, before officer, I was in the United States Army.
And when you were in the
I was in the United States Army, sir.
And when you were in the Army, did you also receive firearms training?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were in the Army, were you in a position where you carried a gun regularly?
Yes, I was an infantryman. It was my job.
And as a law enforcement officer, do you, and a member of VCTF, do you carry a gun every day?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you required to go out to the range and make sure you know how guns operate?
Correct. We're required annually to pass a test, but then we're also given the opportunity to go out to the range to practice and do more, because it takes more than shooting once a year to be proficient.
And do you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to ask you a little bit about September 27th, 2020. As a member of VCTF, were you working shift?
Yes, ma'am. We work 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. That's our standard shift, unless something else that's happening in the county dictates that we change it.
And do you work in a specific area?
We have the as our jurisdiction.
And during your shift that night, did you respond to a White Rock Terrace?
Yes, ma'am.
And how were you informed of this call?
I believe it was through the radio. There was a shooting that was dispatched, and I couldn't tell you exactly how many of the members of my team, but we were together on a meal break.
And how long did it take you to get over there, if you recall?
I couldn't give an exact time frame, but maybe about 10, 15 minutes. I'm not 100% sure.
When you arrived, what did you observe going on?
When I first got to the scene, there was an ambulance that was parked in front of, I believe, the incident location. And there was a stretcher that was being loaded into the back of the ambulance, where there was a male that I visually observed on the stretcher.
And did you see a female?
Yes, there was a female that was being placed in the back of a marked patrol car, I believe. But I saw her for seconds, and then she was placed inside the vehicle.
And were there a lot of law enforcement on scene?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you tasked?
Initially, when we get to a scene, we wait to see what needs to continue to be investigated or what people need help with. And there was information that said that the defendant went to the neighbor's house after the incident that took place. So myself, Detective Din, and I believe somebody from patrol went to that residence to make contact with the neighbor.
And what was your purpose making contact?
To come have an interview completed with the neighbor to see what he knew happened.
And that home, and I apologize if you just said it, is directly next door.
Correct. If you're looking at the front of the incident location, it's the first house immediately to the left.
And what happened when you got over there?
When we went over there, Detective Din completed the interview with the neighbor, and then after the interview, we collected a multi-waiver for the house.
And what is that?
Multi-waiver is a form. It's two-sided, and it has multiple different agreements that we can have. So if we go to a scene, for this particular case, the multi-waiver is something that we collect from the person to get consent to enter and search their house with their permission in lieu of having a search warrant written sent to a judge.
And was Mr. Stant okay with you entering his house?
Yeah, I believe so, yes. I believe he signed it, but I have not seen the multi-waiver in 4 years. So.
Okay. And were you listening in on the interview, and I don't want you to tell me what was said, between Detective Din and Mr. Sant?
I was there for a portion of the interview, but not the entire thing.
Was something that you heard in the interview, did it cause caused you to go do something else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was that?
To collect a firearm that was inside the residence.
Okay. And did you enter Mr. Sand's home?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you locate the firearm?
Yes.
And where was it?
If you were looking at the front door, as soon as the front door opens, immediately to your left on the ground was the firearm, and it was just below a window that was next to the door.
And what, if any, observations did you make about the firearm?
Initially, the first observation was that there was a magazine inside the firearm, appeared to be a semi-automatic black pistol, and the slide, which is the portion of the top of the pistol that retracts to unload a round after it's fired and then load a new round, was partially to, it wasn't completely seated in the forward position. There's a very small amount of it that was to the back.
And did you examine the gun on scene to determine why it was like that?
Yes.
And what did you see?
When I saw that, the firearm, you could see a little bit of ammunition or a round of ammunition inside the chamber. But then after that, that was the only observation I could see with it on the ground.
And did it appear, and was that a live round?
When I cleared the firearm, the ammunition that was inside the chamber was an unfired live round that was still able to be fired, or appeared to be able to be fired.
And I guess I should ask you, once you find a firearm, what do you do with it?
Generally, the first task is to make it safe, clear the firearm.
And so what does that mean?
So it would be pointed in a safe direction. The magazine is always the first thing to be removed from the firearm. So if you pull the slide to the rear and the magazine is still inside the firearm, one round will eject, but it will subsequently load another round into the chamber, which would make it still a live weapon.
And so did you remove the magazine?
Yeah, the magazine was removed first, and then after that, the slide was locked to the rear to prevent the slide from going forward. And when the slide was pulled to the rear, that's when the live round of ammunition was ejected out of the chamber.
Thank you. And at some point, did you take a photograph of the firearm?
Yes.
I'd like to show you what's been pre-marked as State 17. Will you take a look and tell me if you recognize that photo?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
That's the firearm that I photographed and collected.
And does that photograph appear to accurately depict the firearm?
Yes.
On that day? Your Honor, the state would ask to enter and publish State 17.
Mr. Taylor, is there any objection to the admission of State 17?
No, sir.
Received.
And Your Honor, once I'm done, can I just have it passed?
Okay.
Thank you. Once you made the firearm safe, what'd you do with it?
After that, it was placed in a new property bag.
And then did you take it to property and evidence yourself?
No, ma'am.
And what'd you do with it?
I waited with the firearm until CST, I believe it was CST Conlon, arrived to the neighbor's house and took custody of the firearm.
And a CST, what is that?
Crime scene technician, ma'am.
And were you asked to conduct any further investigation in this case?
No.
Anything else from him? I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
All right, if we could go ahead and publish State 17. Mr. Taylor, hold on one second. They're publishing State 17.
Thank you.
May I see a copy of it?
You can see the actual exhibit. All right, cross-exam.
Afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon, sir.
I think we can agree that your testimony pretty much revolved around the firearm.
Yes, sir.
You have experience with firearms.
Yes, sir.
There's various reasons why a handgun such as this might jam, correct?
Might jam, but what was with the firearm was not consistent with a jam, sir.
Okay.
The firearm was just slightly out of battery, which means that the slide was not locked to the rear.
And that's the exclusive reason for it to have been in the condition that it was, you think?
There's multiple reasons why the slide wouldn't go to the complete forward position.
That's what I
But
want.
what was with the firearm was not what would be consistent with a jam. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so let's concentrate on the slide.
Yes, sir.
Are there various reasons why the slide would have been in that position?
Yes.
Is one of those reasons, Detective, someone who is not holding the gun firmly enough?
One of them can be if the way that the firearm reacts with recoil, especially with a pistol, is when the firearm is shot, it has to be firmly held in place for the slide to actually be able to use its own force to push back, eject around, and load a new one, sir.
Okay, and as a relative expert with firearms, you go to the range regularly, I would assume?
Pretty decently, sir. Yes.
All right, and you make certain when you fire a pistol that you are holding it firmly enough so that that doesn't happen?
I do, yes.
Okay. That comes with practice,
Yes,
and that comes with knowledge of the firearms.
I would say so.
So if somebody were a neophyte in the actual firing of a firearm and was scared and petrified, if they weren't holding it tightly enough, that slide could end up in the position that you found it in.
It could, but I think the thing that normally happens more commonly when it comes to a pistol and a grip being weak is that the round is still going to fire, but what happens is that the slide goes backwards, but it doesn't fully eject the round, which causes something that's called a stovepipe. So the best way that I can explain that is that the firearm wants to load a new round of ammunition into the chamber, but the old round has to come out first. So what happens as the chamber is coming back, it actually goes forward, and then the shell casing that it wanted to eject gets stuck in that slide, so it can't go forward anymore.
Okay, and one of the other ways would be, as we discussed,
It could be, sir.
Yeah.
It could be ammunition, a spring, various things.
failure to hold it tightly.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions.
Redirect?
No, Judge, thank you.
Can this witness be released?
Yes, Judge.
Sir? Mr. Taylor, can the witness be
Yes.
released from his subpoena?
Yes.
All right, sir, you're released from your subpoena. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, maybe I don't need to. Go ahead. Yes, I do.
All right. Yes, you're fine. No, it has nothing to do with you. All right, members of the jury, it's about 3 o'clock, so I think it's a good time to take about 10 or 15 minutes. Let you stretch your legs. I'm going to let you go back to the jury room. Please remember, just leave your notes here. Please remember, don't begin discussing the case or anything about it amongst yourselves. You are free to use your phones if you need to send or receive text messages or calls or email. That's just fine. But don't communicate with anyone outside the jury about the case. And please don't do any research on the people, places, things, or legal topics we've heard anything about. And we'll call you back out in just a few minutes after we get a break. All right, the jury is out. You all can have a seat. Thank you. Also, the transcripts that were used, I'm going to take one as an exemplar and just note that this is what was handed out to the jury. All right. 10 minutes, 15 at the latest?
Yes,
All right, stretch, move around. All right, we'll be off the record till then. All right, it's just planned on. I think you said you had 7 witnesses ready for today. Do you think we're going to get that far?
We have 2 crime scene techs in the hall. Mr. Borak, who is going to be relatively brief, I think, and then Ms. Conlon, who will not be relatively brief. And then I think we have 2 more on standby.
Right, I have Ashley Byers out in the hall and, Alicia Byers and Dr. Barbara Russell. I don't anticipate their testimony is going to be very long at all from the state side. So I was hoping to get them done today if possible, so they don't have to come back tomorrow.
All right. We'll see how far we get.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have some issues with Byers and with Russell.
Okay, but they're going to be later.
After the 2 crime scene techs.
Well, let's get through the 2 crime scene techs to guarantee we get through those, and then we'll see where we're at with time, and maybe we get to them today, maybe we don't. We'll do our best, obviously, because I'm with you. I've said before, I prefer to get, if you've got witnesses here, let's get through them. But maybe if we don't get there, that'll give you time to put whatever arguments you want on the record. Sure.
Just while we're talking about scheduling, like, we have 8 witnesses scheduled for tomorrow. Depending on what happens today, it could be more. But the last witness is our firearms person, and they're not available until Thursday morning. He's coming from Jacksonville. So I just wanted the court to know, because I know you were, like, if we got done a little bit early, we're not gonna, I don't think will happen. We're not gonna have him until Thursday morning, but then that would be our last witness if we're on schedule.
All right.
Just so that everybody's aware. I don't want to have him try to.
So that's a good update for you, though, because you were saying, hey, because you had somebody that's getting a surgery next week, and
We had somebody getting surgery on the 1st, and we have
people coming in from out of town.
4 out-of-state people, yeah.
So there you go. The state
Yeah.
is just thinking they're going to finish Thursday morning.
If we're on schedule at the end of the day tomorrow, then we'll have 1 witness left.
So just FYI.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready to get the jury back in?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, are you ready to bring the jury in?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, welcome back. Y'all can have a seat. So I had gone up to my office, and when I came back down on this floor, I realized, well, it's cold today. So again, I apologize. It's set somewhere else, so just keep in mind throughout I see some of you shivering, throughout the rest of the trial, please dress in layers so you're ready for kind of like going on that trip up north sometimes in the spring. You're never quite sure what to take, so be prepared. While you were outside, did anybody discuss amongst yourselves anything about this case or begin your deliberations? Did anybody discuss anything about the case with anybody outside of this group? Did anybody do any research on people, places, things, or legal? You've heard everybody says no. When we took that break, it's case, so they're going to resume from there and call their next witness.
They would call Megan Dvorak. The screen for both of these witnesses, please.
Bam. Hello, ma'am.
Good morning.
Oh,
Oh, good afternoon, Judge.
welcome. My name is Judge White. I'll be presiding over the case. Make yourself comfortable in that chair. Get about 12 to 15 inches from the microphone. There you go. Adjust however you need to. Speak in a nice, clear voice right into that microphone. We'll hear everything.
Thanks, sir.
And please state your last name for the record.
D as in David, V as in Victor, O-R-A-C-K.
And by whom are you employed?
Manatee County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been so employed?
12 years.
And what are your current duties with the Sheriff's Office?
I'm a crime scene tech.
How long have you been a crime scene technician?
6 years.
And what did you do prior to becoming a crime scene technician?
I was a 911 dispatcher.
And as a crime scene tech, when you changed over from dispatch to crime scene, did you have to go through some training?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury about that?
We do an in-house training. It's usually 3 to 6 months. We have certain criteria that we need to get checked off on by our own training officers as well as the unit manager, and he deems it appropriate when we're able to respond to calls and process evidence on our own.
And were you working as a crime scene tech in September of 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you asked, I'm going to draw your attention specifically to September 27th, 2020. Were you asked to assist in a homicide call that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And what time were you called?
About 20 minutes to 9.
And what were you asked to do?
I was asked to respond to our CID interview area, which is at our main operations center, meet with detectives and obtain photographs.
And what is CID?
Criminal Investigative Division.
And do you know what time, did you do that?
Yes, I did.
And do you know what time you arrived?
I arrived at approximately 9:21 that evening.
And you already said, I think you were asked to take photographs.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that of?
Ashley Benefield.
And did you do that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what's the process for taking pictures of someone?
In this circumstance, we take overall photographs of the person as they are when we first see them, taking identification photos from the front of their face, the sides, and then we take photographs in various forms of them being stood fast in front of us. So we just go in clips from the top all the way down. So we do a face shot to her chest, middle area, and then legs, and then down to the feet. And so that's what we did first.
And then once you do that, what's the next thing you do?
The next thing we do, because I was also requested to, collect her clothing as items of evidence. We will start by removing an item of clothing. We're also checking for further injuries at that time or any marks that need to be identified and that.
21 through 30, will you take a look at them and tell me if you recognize them?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
These are the photographs I obtained that evening.
And do they fairly and accurately depict Miss Benefield as you photographed her on September 27th, 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask through 30.
Action. None. They'll be received.
Thank you. And Mr. Bork, you have a laser pointer there. You may have to check if it's on.
It's on.
Okay. I'm going to start with states 21. And so if you'll just kind of, for the record, let me tell us what we're seeing in this picture.
Sure. This is a front identification picture, as we call them, of the subject that we're photographing, just like an ID photo that you would take on your driver's license.
And did you, when you were taking these photos, is that the time in which you're looking for any injuries?
Yes.
And did you observe any injuries on Miss Benefield's face?
No.
And I'll show you states 22. This is her right side?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And states 23 would be the opposite side, left?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you observe any injuries on either of those sides of her face?
No, ma'am.
And so then you said you kind of just go down the body front and back?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you states. Will you tell me what we're seeing here?
This is the mid-torso from her breast line down to her pelvic hip area, with obviously her arms crossed in front of her person.
And states 25.
It's her shin, just above her shins, and down to her ankles that are covered by shoes.
Thank you. And states 26.
And this is a rear view of that same photograph.
And did you, when you were taking these photos, did you observe any injuries on her arms or legs?
I believe that I observed some redness on her right forearm, and some slight discoloration on the back of her left leg and upper right side of her right area, right thigh.
And so I'm showing you now states 27. Is that what are you documenting the red mark you saw on her wrist in this photo?
Yes.
And you said at some point, that you did not observe any injuries to her face or head.
I'll overrule.
Thank you. I believe you just testified that you didn't observe any injuries on her face or head. Is that correct?
I did not see any.
But did you document her left? I'll show you states 28. Is this her left ear?
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you document her left ear?
Her attorney that was present at that evening with her in the room advised me that she had...
Hearsay.
I think it's
Is it
no, it's effect on the listener.
All right, overruled.
Her attorney advised me that she had seen some redness on the defendant's ear, and so I did take it for posterity reasons, photographs of that ear.
Thank you. And then once you took these overall photos that we just saw and documented those, the scratch on her wrist, did you have her remove her T-shirt?
I did.
And did you observe any injuries once she removed her T-shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
I noticed a scratch, a little vertical scratch under her right breast area, and then more scratches above her right hip.
Okay. I'm going to show you states 29. It's been cropped just for modesty purposes, but can you kind of orient us to where this is on Miss Benefield's body?
Looking straight forward at Miss Benefield, this would be just under the right breast area, just under the bra line.
And go ahead. And then
right here is the scratch I was referring to.
Thank you. And states 30, are these the scratches you mentioned on her hip?
Yes, so this would be the side of her right hip.
And I'm going to show you the picture. Up there, they kind of look brown, but were they in fact brown?
No, ma'am, they were red.
Thank you. And you said that's her right hip?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Did you observe any other injuries once Miss Benefield removed her clothing?
No, ma'am.
And did you collect her clothing?
I did.
Did you conduct any further investigation after you documented Miss Benefield?
No.
Do you have anything else for her? I don't have any further questions, Mr. Warwick. Defense may.
Thank you.
Cross?
Yes, sir. Your Honor, I think that the monitor did not accurately portray two of the photographs. I wonder if the court have any objection to before I begin my cross-publishing these two.
Absolutely not. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Just hand them to the deputy. State for the record which numbers they were.
They would have been 29 and 30, Judge.
29 and 30. Thank you. All right, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Is it deputy or Ms.?
Crime scene, Dvorak, or Mrs.?
Okay. Are you a licensed deputy or?
No, I'm not classified as civilian.
Civil, okay, that the sheriff.
Sir.
As a crime scene technician.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you, of course, a report of the things that you did on that particular day, did you not?
Yes.
And among other things, as you've explained to us here this afternoon, Ms. Dorvik, you also collected, did you not, DNA swabs?
I did.
Okay, will you tell us what DNA swabs are?
DNA swabs, dependent upon what I'm being requested to swab, are utilized when I'm trying to get a possible DNA sample from an area. In this circumstance, I believe I took, if I can just refer to my report, Judge?
Please, absolutely. Take your time, you can refer to your
Thank you.
notes. I don't need to speak for the court, but I'm pretty confident on that one.
I did take a buccal swab. We call it a buccal swab standard from the defendant. And then for this particular case, I took touch DNA swabs, which meaning I was swabbing specific areas that the defendant's counsel had advised me that I needed to swab in accordance to find maybe possibly some of Mr. Benefield's DNA. I believe I swabbed several areas in reference to that.
Okay, and would those areas that you swabbed include Miss Benefield's hands?
Let's see. I did swab her forearm and wrist areas, both from the left and the right.
Now, I think you referred to that as touch DNA?
Yes.
In other words, trying to break this down in its simplest terms, it would indicate when the results came back whether or not a particular individual may have touched Ashley Benefield in those areas that you swabbed.
Objection, Judge.
If she can answer, overruled.
You may answer.
It is possible, yes.
Okay. And in this instance, by what you just expressed to us, you were taking those touch DNA samples off Miss Benefield's wrists and forearms to check to see if Douglas Benefield had touched her arm.
I believe it was just to see if any touch DNA profile came back.
Okay, would Douglas Benefield be included in that?
I don't know for certain. I did not send off the swab, so I'm not sure who they were actually putting a profile against or running it against to.
Okay, so you swab it, it's sent off to the lab?
The detective is the one who determines what swabs get sent off and who the DNA comparison is related to.
Okay, and the lab analyzes it and sends it back?
Yes.
And when they send it back, they distinguish what individuals may or may not have left their DNA in the areas that you swabbed?
I can't answer that. I don't know what their results look like or what their job entails.
Well, do you know what the end result of your swabbing is for?
I do not.
Okay, you don't know whether it's to establish if somebody touched them in those areas?
I do swab to see if there is multiple or just one DNA profile in that area, but like I said, I don't know who, if they were sending him Mr. Benefield's DNA
Okay,
or not.
I understand. So you don't know who, but when you swab, you're swabbing to see whether or not scientifically there's going to be evidence that someone may have touched Miss Benefield in those areas.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Redirect?
Oh, 1 second, Ron. Storvek, you have your report with you?
I do.
Would you look at the first page where you begin listing the areas that you swabbed?
Yes.
Does it not at the bottom also say that you swabbed the suspect's right hand and left hand?
Yes, it does. I
Not the
apologize. I
suspects.
missed that.
Miss
Yes.
Benefield's right hand and left hand.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so you did the right hand, the left hand, the right wrist, the left wrist, the right forearm, and the left forearm.
Yes, the forearms and wrists were one swab individually on both arms, and then yes, I did swab both her right hand and her left hand individually.
And what do you do with the swabs after you've completed your task?
They are sealed with evidence tape and they are signed on the seal to ensure that the seal is not broken. And then I place them into our property and evidence division, to which the detective deems that they need to be sent off or not.
Who's the lead detective on this case?
Detective Justin Warren.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Still no record.
All right, can the witness be released? State?
Yes.
We have her under subpoena, Your Honor. I'm going to have to ask that you remain under.
All right, ma'am. You're not released from your trial subpoena. The rule of sequestration has been invoked, so you're not to discuss your testimony or the questions asked of you with the attorneys or anyone else, any other witnesses. You're not to talk with any witnesses about their testimony or other evidence. You're not to watch or hear anything about the proceedings until you're released from your subpoena or the jury has been discharged.
Yes, sir.
All right, you can go. All right, State, call your next witness.
The state would call Amanda Conlon. swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Hello, ma'am. As the deputy said, just make yourself comfortable in that chair. Get about to 12 to 15 inches from that microphone. It adjusts up, down, left, right, however you need. Speak in a loud, clear voice right into it. And we should be able to hear everything. If we hear you breathing, you know you're too close.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Friel.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
It's Amanda Conlon, Conlon.
And by whom are you employed?
I'm Manatee County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been so employed?
20 years.
What is your current duties? What are your current duties?
A crime scene technician.
And have you been a crime scene technician that whole 20 years?
No.
What'd you do before that?
I was in teletype, which is part of dispatch.
And then how long have you been in the crime scene unit?
17 years.
And what kind of training do you get to become a crime scene technician?
I went to St. Pete College and for crime scene specifically.
And then once you join the unit, do you have any on-the-job training?
Yes.
And do you continue to receive trainings if methods change or new science evolves?
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to September 27th, 2020. Working that day?
Yes.
And in the same capacity?
Yes.
Okay. And were you called out to a scene at 11331 White Rock Terrace?
Yes.
Okay. And what time did you arrive there?
Approximately, I got called at 1937 hours, and I think I arrived about 28 hours approximately.
Okay, so just because I don't math. 7:37 p.m.?
Yes.
And then you got there at 8:28?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And was law enforcement already on scene?
Yes.
And how do you get called out to a scene?
It was a Sunday night, and I was on call person. Sergeant Moss was the one who actually called me out that night.
And when you arrived there, without telling me what they say, did you speak to law enforcement to get an idea of what had happened?
Yes.
And what is your task there on scene at White Rock Terrace?
Once I arrive and wait for the search warrant to arrive, I can only take photographs of the outside of the residence on the street of where the crime scene tape was. And then when the search warrant arrived, I was able to enter the residence.
And prior to entering 11331, did you go next door to the neighbor's house?
Yes.
Okay. And why'd you go over there?
There was a firearm that I needed to collect.
And tell me about that. Where was the firearm?
When I arrived, Detective Ackerman was outside the residence with the firearm, which was in a paper bag.
And was it secured, I guess?
He secured it, yes.
And what type of firearm was it?
It was a Springfield .45 caliber.
And when you got there, had it already been unloaded, or was it still?
It was still, the magazine was still loaded.
And it did in fact have bullets in it?
It had 1 in the chamber and 3 in the magazine.
And what type of ammo was in the firearm, if you recall?
.45 caliber and Hornady, I believe.
And once you collect the gun, what do you do with it?
On scene that night, I secured it in my van, locked my van.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon, I'm first going to show you states 31, 32, and 33. Will you take a look at those and tell me if you recognize them?
Yes, I recognize them.
And how do you recognize them?
Those are my photographs that I took of the gun that was next door.
And do they appear to fairly and accurately depict it as you found it on September 27th, 2020?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time the state would ask to enter 30 through 31, 32, and 33.
Any objection?
No.
Received?
Thank you. And may I publish them?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon, there's a pointer there. I don't think you'll need it at this point, but if you do. I'm going to show you first states 31. What's the purpose of this picture?
That is the next door neighbor's house, so I'm showing the address.
And I'll show you states 32. Is that how you found the firearm that day or that evening?
Yes.
And are those potentially Detective Ackerman's feet there?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the front porch of that same address?
Yes.
And then states 33.
That's the firearm.
And the slide is back in this firearm, in this picture. Was that done by the detective prior to you getting it from him?
Yes.
Thank you. I can't get it to close. And Ms. Conlon, I left an item there with you. It is states 13. Would you take a look at this item and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It's the box that I packaged the gun in, and it's got the information on the side of it.
And your information from when you packaged it?
Yes.
And did you look inside? It's open, yep.
Okay. Yes.
Does it appear to be in the same or substantially same condition as when you packed it back in September of 2020?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to enter and publish States 13.
Received?
Thank you. Would it be okay if the deputy just walked in front of
I
the?
think, yes, I would prefer that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deputy. After you collected the gun, I think I got ahead of myself earlier. At some point, do you enter 11331 White Rock Terrace?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your, what do you do when you are processing this scene? You said you'd already taken outside photos?
Yes.
And so what's the next step?
I start to take photos into the inside, and I entered through the garage door, which was open. I entered then into a hallway where there was a laundry room on the left side of me, and then as I continued down the hallway, there was 2 bedrooms on my left side, and then there was a bathroom at the very end of this hallway.
And so do you document the entire inside of the house before there's any searches or evidence collected?
Yes.
And is that what you did in this case?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon, I'm going to show you states 34 through 82. It'll take you a minute, but if you'll go through each of those and let me know when you're done. You looked at them all?
Yes.
And do you recognize states 34 through 82?
I do.
And how do you recognize them?
Those are the photographs I took that night.
And do they appear to fairly depict the home as it was, documented it, and then collected evidence back in the...
Yes.
And I'm also going to show you state 16. It's laying there. You kind of were describing the layout. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It's the residence.
And does it depict the portion of the residence we are going to discuss this afternoon?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state would ask to enter states 16 and states 34 through 82.
Any objection? They'll all be received.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I publish?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Conlon, would that sketch, if I had blown it up, assist you in describing the house as we walk through it?
Yes.
And can you take a look at this blow up and tell me if it is an accurate depiction of state 16?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, feel free to reposition yourself as you need to get a clear view of what's going on.
Thank you, Judge.
No. Perfect. Thank you, sir. Okay, Ms. Conlon, we're gonna, you have a pointer there, so we're gonna kind of walk through this house, through your pictures and this sketch, if you don't mind. Okay, so you said you entered through the garage. Will you just point out for the jury where that is in this picture? Or the sketch, sorry. Okay.
Garage.
And then you already said you went in through a laundry room, so could you just kind of point to where you walked through?
And I walked through here.
Okay. And I'm gonna steal those pictures. I'm gonna start with states 34. What is this picture?
This is the driveway of the residence.
And this is the 1331, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that's a U-Haul truck?
Correct.
Okay. And then this is states 35. What is this?
This is still the driveway, and this is one of the storage pods and the U-Haul.
And then you said you went in through the garage.
Correct.
This is states 36. Where are you standing in this photo? When you take this photo, sorry.
I'm standing its way of the garage.
And then states 37. What do we see here?
Still the garage.
And what is that doorway that's depicted in the middle of states 37?
So that's the hallway, and then once I enter that hallway, the laundry room's right there on the left-hand side.
And states 38, is this laundry room you were just discussing?
Yes.
And then once you go through the laundry room, what's the first thing you encounter?
Past the laundry room, there's a bedroom, which is right here.
Did you enter that bedroom and document it with a photo?
Yes, I did.
And that states 39. Is this that bedroom that on the sketch is labeled child's bedroom?
Yes.
And were there things in this bedroom that indicated to you that potentially a child lived in that bedroom?
Yes.
Such as?
There was a small mattress, and there were some items in the closet.
Now, after you went in there, where's the next area you go?
I'm continuing down the hallway, and there's the second bedroom.
And we're going to come back to that one. Eventually, do you go through into the living room area?
Yes. Okay. So once I get to the end of the hallway, then I start my photos around here in the kitchen.
And this is states 40. What area are we looking at here?
You're in the living room right now.
And this, we're going to have dueling laser pointers. This here, what door is that?
That's the front door.
Okay. So that's on the right side of this picture?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then here, is that the same front door? On the left side of this picture states 41?
Yes.
Okay. And what are you depicting here?
The dining room.
And then in states 42, where are you standing now when you take states 42?
So I'm standing in the living room, and I'm closest to the kitchen, like right in this area.
Thank you. And did you document the kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. And where is this is this a pantry in states 43?
Yes.
Okay, and where is it?
It's right there.
And then this is this sketch is only the part of the house that we're going to talk about today, is that right?
Correct.
Was there something past the kitchen and those bathrooms there?
Yes, there's a master bedroom and bathroom in this area.
And did you go back and document that room?
I did.
Did you find anything of evidence in that room?
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Once you've walked through the whole home and you said you had gone into that bedroom we called Miss Benefield's bedroom on the sketch, do you also document any evidence that you find?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you states 44. Can you tell us what we're seeing here and then show us where this would be on that sketch?
So that's blood, and that's the entranceway of this bedroom right here. So it would be going this way.
And just to be clear, the wood part would be the bedroom and the tile would be the hallway?
Correct.
And then is this the same entranceway from a different angle?
Yes.
And were you made aware of what that smear was from, or that blood mark?
Yes.
And what was it?
It was from the victim being dragged out to be worked on.
And did it go all the way, did it start in that bedroom?
Yes.
And where did it end?
It ended at the front door.
And I'll show you states 46. I think it's a little more clear, but this is the bedroom.
Correct.
Thank you. And then what bedroom is this?
This is, once again, the same bedroom.
And this is 47. And we'll call this Miss Benefield's bedroom if that's okay with you.
Okay.
And so what are we looking at here?
I've started to take my photographs like in a 360 inside the bedroom. So I'm documenting right now the blood that's right there in the middle.
And I'm just gonna, can you just kind of mark it on there? Circle it, I guess. There you go.
yeah.
Thank you. And that states 47. Oh. It states 48. There's some, would you call them bifold doors there?
Yes.
And what is that we're looking at the base of?
That's the closet.
And then this is states 49. Is that the same closet?
Yes.
Thank you. And then you said you did a 360 view. Does that mean you take pictures of the whole room?
Yes, corner to corner, as best I can.
Thank you. And this is states 50. What are you documenting here?
Once again, the room, I'm just standing at a different corner, and then I'm starting to focus in on the casings that are in the room.
And after you've gone through these pictures, do you later mark items of evidence in a certain way?
Yes.
And how do you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I'll come back and place evidence markers down by anything that I think is evidence.
And did you do that in this room?
I did.
Okay. I'm going to show you states 51. This is the same bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. So what markers do we see here?
You're seeing 1 through 6.
And do you then also kind of zoom in or get closer pictures of what each item you're documenting?
Yes.
And so we'll start with, this is states 52. That's that same broom we've been seeing, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in states 51, we can see that next to the broom is marker number 1.
Yes.
Okay. So it's just kind of hidden in this picture. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm capable, I'm going to try to zoom in. What are you documenting in state 1?
I'm starting to get close-ups of the evidence markers and the casings that are next to them.
Okay. And so at at markers 1, 2, and 3 here in states 52, what are those 3 items?
They're casings.
This computer's killing me. And then in states 53, where are you standing now?
Now my back is towards the wall, so I'd be right in front of evidence markers 1, 2, and 3.
And we see 4 and 6. What other markers do we see that we have not seen before in this picture?
So 4 and 6 and 5. 4 is in the corner.
And then is that white sticker on the wall a marker also?
Yes, that's 7 is.
And states 54 accomplishes what I tried to accomplish a moment ago. These are the closer up pictures of 1, 2, and 3.
Correct.
Okay. And did you collect those 3 casings?
I did.
I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as states 4, 5, and 6. Will you take a look at those 3 items and tell me if you recognize them?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize them?
They've got my ID, my last name, my seal.
And do they, other than having been repackaged for trial purposes, do states 4, 5, and 6 appear in the same or substantially the same condition as when you packaged them?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would ask to enter 4, 5, and 6.
Any objection to states 4, 5, and 6? Received.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now we're at state's picture 55. What are you depicting here?
Pardon me.
So there's a casing there, but also a close-up of the blood.
And did you collect that casing?
I did.
Same question on state 7. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
My last name, my ID.
Repackaged, does it appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as when you packaged it?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to enter state 7.
Any objection to states 7?
No, sir.
Received.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Judge, could we just publish by having these casings passed, these 4 casings passed?
You see them?
Yes, sir. You want to-
No, I just need, just hold them up. Yes, you may pass those.
Thank you.
You got them all, Deputy? All right, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge. I'll show you states 56. We see 1, 2, and 3, which we've already discussed, but also number 5. What were you documenting with tent number 5?
There's a projectile at 5.
And in states 57, is that a close-up of that projectile?
Yes.
And did you collect it?
Yes.
You take a look at states 9 and tell me if you recognize it
I do.
and how you recognize it.
It's my last name, my ID, and my seal.
And other than being repackaged for court purposes, does it appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected it from marker number 5?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to enter states 9.
No objection.
Received.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now we're looking back out of the same bedroom, is that correct?
Correct.
This is states 58, and we see a marker we have not seen before in the middle there, well, a couple, but that first one in the hallway.
I'll sustain. She can explain.
Thank you. Can you tell me which markers we see in this picture?
So going out into the hallway towards the front door is 13, 14, 15.
And would you point to them if you don't mind with that laser pointer?
Right there, there, and there.
And then on the wall, do we see a marker, or is there any other markers besides number 6 and the ones you just discussed?
Number 7.
Okay. And what were you documenting with number 7?
A projectile hole.
And this is states 59. Is that the same hole?
Yes.
Thank you. And at some point, did you attempt to determine what happened to the projectile after it went through number 7?
Yes.
And were you able to figure that out?
Yes.
And where did it go?
It ended up in the bathroom's door frame.
And do you have some type of equipment that you use to try to help you in that, to figure out the path of a bullet?
A trajectory rod? Yes.
And did you use that in this case?
I did.
Okay. I'm going to show you states 60, and if you could describe for the jury what they're seeing here, please.
So the hole starts at 7 and enters, so that's an entryway. Then this is where it ended up. So the projectile's right there at 11 in the door frame.
Thank you. And did you document the path that it took?
I did.
Okay. So that was state 60, if I didn't state it for the record. This is state 61.
So that would be on the other side of 7. So 7's an entry, 8 is an exit. So that's going into the bathroom cabinet underneath the sink.
And if you can, well, I guess, so 7 would be on the opposite side of the wall?
In the bedroom, correct.
Thank you. And then after it left 8, did you determine where it went?
Its path continued through the cabinet door.
And this is state 62. What do we see here?
So now it is entering the cabinet door, so that's what number 9 is labeling.
Thank you. And what's this in states 63?
So that's the same cabinet door, and this is it exiting that cabinet door.
And this is state 64 for perspective. Will you show us, just point to where states, the marker 10 is?
Right there.
10, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, 10.
And did you determine the final resting place of this projectile?
I did.
And where was it?
It's at 11 in the door frame.
So this is state 65. What's this?
That is where the projectile ended up.
And state 66, what do we see here?
That is a close-up, and you can actually see the projectile right there.
And did you dig it out of the wall?
I did.
And state 67, what do we see here?
It's been dug out, so that's just showing that it came out and it's right there.
And did you collect that projectile?
I did.
I'm going to show you states 8. Same questions. Do you recognize it?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
My last name, my ID, and my seal.
And other than being repackaged for court purposes, does it appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as when you removed it from the wall back in September of 2020?
It does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to enter states 8.
No objection.
Received.
I'm going to show you state 68. Can you tell me what you're documenting here?
So that is the blood trail. So I'm now in the living room, dining room area. So that's 14, 15, and 16 are all blood.
And we saw a 14, 15, and 16 in a previous picture. Are these the same ones?
Yes.
You only use each number once.
Correct.
Thank you. And this door, what is the door in the middle of this picture?
That's the front door.
And then state 69, what do we see here?
So I continued outside because there was more blood outside. So that is right in the front entrance outside the front door. So it would be right in this area. So that's 17 and 18 with blood.
Thank you. And when you said this area, you pointed, but I didn't see. Would you mind?
Right in this area.
Thank you. Did you locate any other projectiles in the home?
I did.
And where was it? Where was it? One or more?
It was one more, just one more.
And where was it?
It's in the living room.
And did you document that with photos?
I did.
I'm gonna show you state 70. What do we see here? And if you could just show us on that sketch where we're looking.
So this is the living room, and it's right by the front door. So it's gonna, and this is the front door, so it's right here in this area. Because there's the window, so it's right there.
Thank you. And what is this item in state 71, if you know?
I thought it was some kind of shelving.
And what are you documenting in this photo?
The path that the projectile took.
And can you just point to the jury what you used?
Right there, and there's the projectile hole.
Thank you. And this is state 72. Is this the projectile you just told us about?
It is.
And did you remove it from the wall?
I did.
And you collected it?
I did.
I'll show you states 10. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
My last name, my ID, and my seal.
And does, other than repackaged for trial purposes, is it an addition? Your Honor, the state
Received?
and pass 8, 9, and 10.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
More continuing coverage is on the way. The Black Swan murder trial of Ashley Benefield from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. Press subscribe now.